think the most valuable part of this work is giving folks the power of agency in their voice. Giving voice to people who don't think they have voice. The role of the poet is to speak for those who cannot speak. It's also teaching people to speak for themselves, speak for their own communities, and also voice their experiences. I'm Jarivs Subia, I'm 27 years old, and I am a performance poet. I'm a spoken word artist, writer, poet, performer. Any combination of those work pretty well for me. And what I do is I perform my own personal work, narrative, experience through spoken word, and then I do arts education where I go into the classrooms and teach young folks the power of their voice, agency, and appreciation for spoken word as an art form.
Art is like literally the thing, it's like literally the gift that we were given, this gift of being able to create and create something that speaks to people's hearts, that speaks to people's worldviews, that has the power to not only affect our mentality and our mental shifts, but like specifically target the heart space. My name is Sammay, my full name is Sammay Dizon. I'm 26 years old. My pronouns are she, her, hers, they, their, them. I am a healer, artivist, truth speaker. I work in the intersections of performance and media, specifically dance, theater, and music. And I work from an intersectional framework, specifically working with intercultural groups around decolonization and re-indigenization.
I don't know many people that have infiltrated dance entirely in terms of just like I don't think I've ever seen just like a troupe of like super queer dancers just like moving in all the ways that they want, and like so I think it'd be cool to be one of few people to represent the community in dance, because dance itself is beautiful, and I think dance doesn't have to be gendered or doesn't have to be oppressive. It could be really liberating. I'm Mel. I use they them pronouns. I'm
Your age too.
Sorry?
Your age too.
Oh, I'm 22. I'm Mel, I'm 22. I use they them pronouns, and I identify as trans non-binary. I'm a dancer. I've been dancing since I was 2. And it's been something that's been really integral to my identity and just to the way that I express myself ever since I was small. And it's like transformed over time as I learned more about my gender, and as I like discovered more about how I would like my body to move and how I would like my body to be seen. Dance has kind of taken a new shape for me. Gender has to do with the body, and I think a lot of gender dysphoria comes with a discomfort in the body, and I think dance as a way to fight that discomfort is actually very powerful. You know, it's like super difficult at times, but you're literally taking on like what like your biggest insecurities in terms of gender, you know? So I think that challenge is really cool, and I think it's given me a lot of like strength.
This crisis that comes with every artist, where it's like we are like almost destined to die or starve or like go homeless for our art. It's like that's kind of like the notion that I grew up with, that it's like I will be a starving artist if I want to be anywhere near the arts. Like that was like the biggest fear in high school for me, because it was just so prevalent. Like any artist that I met, you know, drug abuse, substance abuse, kind of was wild or had some sort of like thing that was just, they almost look scary to be like, what? Like, because, you know, I've been drawing and making stuff since I was like, so 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade, you know, I didn't know what an artist looked like. My name is Jimenez. I am 25 years old. I am a current undergrad at San Jose State studying industrial design. I think in particular it was to have individuals identify with the subjects. So whether it was people of color, first generation Mexican Americans, DACA recipients, homeless individuals, or industrial designers themselves, and then also dealing with individuals that came into the space, so the gallery space, hoping that if they didn't understand what the topics were or what it looked like, they actually can kind of put a face to a name of what it means to see immigrants and what does it mean to see, gentrification and what does it look like. So it's putting an image to a word, that's kind of like, that was one of the goals of the show.
Like, why am I doing what I'm doing, right? And I feel like there's a few reasons why. I think one that stands out to me obviously is, I love attention. I'm an attention whore. I wasn't given agency growing up or spaces where folks were listening to me. So public speaking and performance in this way gives me that practice to do that. I don't know if I say find my voice, I'm still finding my voice and what it is, but learning how to insert my voice more in my opinion and find my opinion. I really love this art form for giving me the space to kind of navigate that and figure out what that is for me. Really nice and really blessed to be able to sing Arts Made by Mills. But also because the work that I find myself gravitating towards is work where I get to work with low-income folks and folks in marginalized communities who don't feel they have the access to art, the access to sharing their narrative, who maybe also don't have the space to voice themselves in the way I have. And just teaching them they can, right? And teaching them some ways they can and some tools they can use in their own sphere. I feel like in the classroom, I'm not going in to try to make people spoken word poets. I'm not trying to make people performers. I'm trying to give people the tools that spoken word performing has given me to make me, I won't say a better person, but to make me a more active agent in my own life.
I dance because it's a practice of embodiment. It's really a therapeutic and healing practice for me on a very personal level. I've just lived through many experiences as a brown femme, as a person of color, as a woman in this society in which I've been disembodied, and I have narratives in my lineage that contribute to this being outside of the body and not understanding how to honor our bodies as part of our full selves, our whole selves, what I believe is our sacred temple. I can't thank art enough for the ways in which it literally saves my life every day. And and when I say that, I'm encompassing a whole strew and spectrum of feelings and emotions and challenges of living in this body and in this world at this present time, and in lifetimes before. I also believe dance is just really powerful and underrated because it really is a practice around having agency and sovereignty and being autonomous in how we move through the world in a very metaphysical and also very literal way. Dance teaches us how to improvise. Dance teaches us how to be in choreography and in collaboration with others. Dance just really connects us to our inner body and our outer body and allows us to have a more full and a more grounded experience moving in the world. For a while, I struggled with the kind of compartmentalization of activist and artist, and I wasn't quite sure how I could do both. And for a while I actually thought I had to choose the activist full-on life, being in the front lines, being in the trenches, and not focusing on my art in order to make the change I wanted and believe was needed in the world, until I realized my gifts, until I realized really what I am and was and am meant to do in this specific lifetime.
I was introduced to it when I was really small, and I think I like the way that it's really engaging, and it was just something that I had a good time with when I was younger, and I think the reason why I've kept it up for so long, especially into today, is because it's really challenging in the sense that it forces you to pay attention to yourself. It forces you to pay attention to the way you move, the way you respond to music. It forces you to really focus on your body, which has been really challenging for me, especially as someone that's genderqueer, and as someone that's like not like doesn't really match like Eurocentric beauty standards. It's been really difficult to like force myself to focus on myself and appreciate the way my body moves. And I think that challenge has kept me engaged for so long. And I think it just keeps getting more challenging, which is why I think I just keep getting more invested in dancing. And I've tried like painting, and I've done, you know, like spoken word. But there's something about dance that engages all of me, which I think is really like encapsulating. In my day-to-day life, it was always been really difficult to speak out. It's always been really difficult to like, you know, assert my needs or assert what I want to do with myself, or what actions I want to do, what like opinions I have. And I think it's just the nature of being a Japanese assigned female at birth, like I said earlier. And I think it's important. I mean, I want to respect and appreciate the culture, and I want to take away what's good from that culture and also incorporate it into what I believe is healthy and is how, like, not how it should be, but like I think that each individual has the agency to do what they want with their body, to do what they want with their lives.
The ironic part of how I got into industrial design was actually that it wasn't a degree that I thought even existed. I do a lot of graphic work, photography, video, and I did sculpture work. And then I met, he was actually a Vietnamese student at San Jose State in his, I believe his 3rd or 4th year, and I met him at the public library. He was commuting to San Jose State from San Francisco, and I thought that was crazy because I was like, why would anyone want to commute from San Francisco to San Jose? But he showed me his portfolio, told me what he wanted to do with his degree. He was designing really like great products that I thought already existed, but apparently they were just concept models and prototypes that he had come up with along with like some of the coursework. And I thought, there's this thing that's really cool that, you know, kind of puts together everything that I like. And I thought, why not? Like, why not go for that degree? I changed my major. I like set my sights on that. But I think it's really important because as a first generation student, or it allowed me to kind of have hope that arts are important and that I can make a living off of it. And more importantly, I can stay in this area if I have this degree, because, you know, without me knowing, I mean, Google is going to move here or may move here, but I'm an eligible candidate for a firm like that, like for Google, Facebook, Apple, because I know the processes of what it takes to create a product, whether it's like a service or an actual tangible item. So I think it's like really cool, but it would be even better if other individuals like me or that didn't know about it could actually, you know, pursue a degree in that or something similar, or at least know that their skills could be put into this new facet or whatever you want to call it. Like, I think it's pretty cool.
I'm still combating a lot of those ideas of like being impoverished, being poor, coming from these communities and neighborhoods I do, and still seeing art as something that I can like do. Even though I'm doing it, it's a wild thing. I'm doing art, but I'm still trying to see myself as a career. The goal is to find career in the arts, or find something where I'm doing this throughout my entire life. Whether it's balancing with career or holding space for it in some way. I feel like poetry and performance will work its way in. I have no idea what that looks like. And that's the part with this. There's no path, right?
Yeah.
There are folks I can ask for a resource. There are folks who I can be like, give me some advice. But there is no set path. You're paving the way. That's a lot of being an artist. Being an artist full time is figuring it out. And that's the fun part too. The fun part is figuring it out. Because you're learning, and then it's an experience, right? And you're usually gonna have some fun along the way. But it's also scary and vulnerable and nerve-wracking. And it's work. It's a lot of people. Being a full-time artist is a lot of work. It's like you don't know what's possible until you see it, until you hear it, until someone explains it to you. It's powerful to be able to like give people's perspective in that amount of time. And so teaching folks how to do that and give personal perspective in a way where folks are going to listen to their stories. And we live in a time now, especially nowadays, where people are not getting enough narrative, not getting enough storied experience of people in the world, and then creating assumptions of them. creative dispositions, right? Thinking they know somebody's story, thinking they know what's going on based on what they're being told, but not asking the people themselves, or not having enough narrative from the people themselves, right? So I think it's really important to teach how to give that, right? Teach people how to speak for themselves, how to become agencies of their own power, and be, what's the term I'm looking for? To participate in their own liberation.
Yeah, you know, we live in a capitalist society, and so this unlearning of everything and unveiling, being in that kind of phase of middle fingers up to the system is a very integral part of this journey. But getting through that was a challenge for me. It was really hard for me to, you know, start to understand the world from a more politicized and organized view, and then like go back in and like have to make money. You know, I was very like, I hate money.
Yeah.
So healing that relationship to finances has been a huge learning point for me, because, you know, like even though you've chosen this path of social justice, doesn't mean that everyone is working from the same mindset and heart space as you. So there's that. There's like, without a doubt, the interpersonal and the different views and the different ways of approaching the work. I've definitely had to learn kind of like from this very beginner unknown space of how to be an artist, how to like be a professional in this industry, because I didn't go to college to learn how to be an artist. And even if I did go to college to be an artist, I don't know if I would have even understood how to navigate the industries that I have to navigate to do this work. There's still racism in the performing arts. There's still, there's very, very much so tokenism in the performing arts. There are like, you know, kind of like vultures who want to use your gifts, but not compensate you in the ways that you deserve, or not really give you the right full acknowledgement in the work.
Growing up, I think the biggest obstacle was being the only person of color in my studio, or like, I think it was me and one other person of color, and like she was really good and really skinny and like it's like very close to what they were looking for, and I like wasn't, you know. I was like nerdy, I had like glasses, I was like a little chubby, you know, I had like really thick like hair that was like kind of frizzy. So it just like didn't like align very well with the studio, and I think having to like accept and appreciate like my curves and my like face and my hair, like all the things that come with being Japanese American, I think having to like appreciate that was a huge obstacle, especially when I was growing up, because when you're dancing and you're doing something you love and you don't understand why people, you know, can't like feel your passion and have that be enough, was very frustrating when I was growing up. And looking back on it now, it's very clear that, you know, it was because like POCs were underrepresented in the competitive dance community. It was a huge barrier in my growth as a dancer, with these ideas that I was raised with, about being like humble, being in the back, not speaking out, and I think as a result, I felt like I wasn't a dancer. I didn't have a dancer body. I like didn't stand out as much as like a lot of the other people I was dancing with, who were typically like, you know, white, and like they were told to, you know, like take the spotlight and try your best, and like, you know what I mean? Like there's a difference in how their upbringings manifested even in the dance studio. So I think once I became super aware of, oh, like that maybe the reason why I felt so oppressed doing something that I loved so much was because I let something that I believe is not super healthy for me take over, because I didn't like know any better. But once I became aware of that discrepancy, I think I gained a little bit of confidence on the dance floor. I think I started to trust myself a little more.
It's by me trying to pursue it and then seeing that there's some success, some failures or whatnot, it really makes me happy, and just in general, like the highs and lows, but the fact that I'm still in art. I can complain about like the wage that I make, but I know it's only temporarily. The fact that I can earn a wage from doing the work that I do is like really cool, and it's just really me trying to push myself to make it like more successful, whether it's me being able to sustain myself fully from it and not having to do like 2-3 jobs at once would be great. But I think what I see in my community from like the youth, from their parents, and seeing what it means to really do this kind of work, it really is like the driver. Because I mean, I could literally call it quits and go work at a job that pays well, but it has nothing to do with the arts. And it's possible, like I can work as a cook, or I can work as a AC or heating, lighting. Like there's a bunch of trades out there. It's not to make them less or anything, but it literally says to me, if at any moment art gets too difficult or it gets too like unreasonable, like I'm starving, yeah, there's like paths that I could go to. However, that's not the case. In the case for me, it's like I see it as like something that has helped me in design and in my studies, because I see that industrial design is like a focus of human-centered design. And so where else do you get more interaction with people than through the arts? Whether it's like visually, performance, or just engaging and telling them like to be more involved with their communities through art is like, oh, whoa, like that does help a lot. So I think more importantly is like, I want the little kid that's, you know, drawing for the first time, sketching, watching YouTube videos and thinking like, one day I'm gonna be an artist, to literally one day be an artist. And I think for me, leading by example would be like the best, is that, you know, I haven't given up the dream. I haven't like, oh, I used to draw, but now I don't draw.
Don't stop doing it, even when you think you should stop, even when, or not when you think you should stop, but even when you feel like you can't do it anymore, or you feel like the things are stacking up against you, do the art, continue to work towards it, right? Know it's going to be a long process, right? There's no path to get there, right? Some folks will do it in a few years, some folks will take a decade, right? But keep pursuing the art, find space for it. Even, like I said, you don't have to be an artist to do art, right? You don't have to pursue art full time to be an artist, right? You just got to create, you just got to find space for it at your own capacity, right? Slowly work your way into what you can do. And then also find a community. Find people around you who want the same animals you do, who are pursuing the same things you do. See who they're looking towards, talk to them about how they do what they did, ask them for advice too. They probably got some perspectives on this that you don't have. And yeah, just keep pursuing it. That's like the best advice I can give. There are many times where I feel like, you know, even being 27, feels like I'm old in the art form of spoken word, because mostly spoken word artists are 18, 19, 20-year-olds, folks in college, young folks who are doing the art form, and I feel like a little bit of an old head, but part of me is like, no, I'm still working towards this, and I'm still going to do that. Because as much as there's that, there's also 40-year-olds, there's people who are, you know, in their late 30s who are doing this still, performing, slamming, right? So it's a wide range of people.
Don't be afraid to jump. Don't be afraid to dive into the depths and the darkness. And if you are afraid, all good, you know? It's so multi-layered, the work, and it's such a, like, personal community, personal society. You know, it's such a relationship, the work. So my advice is just to like stay hyper aware, stay like in your deep consciousness, and don't ever let anybody take that away from you. Like, you know your magic, know your gifts, understand your potentialities, and also know when it's time to rest, when it's time to replenish. Like have a good base of accomplices and people in your circle who are on the same wavelength, so you can trust that when you lay to rest that more people will pick it up for you. Always return to the land. Yeah.
And like, yeah, just like take up space. Like, you know, like people of color just like taking up space, that's just a beautiful thing. It's just so beautiful. And I think that that's why having POC dancers is like super important too. It's like a I appreciate you culture, but we're moving on and we're growing from what you gave us. I think just a theme that ties together being POC and, you know, if they're queer, being queer, and pursuing an art form is just like believing in your art, you know, like taking your art seriously even if no one else will, and like knowing the value of what you produce even if people tell you that it's not worth something. I think that's really important, because I think it's really easy to let other people tell you that you're not what we're looking for, but you are your own best like support system and your own best critic. So it's like you are the, like, you should be the one that is cherishing your art and cheerleading yourself on. So like resilience is like huge. You'll find eventually, well, I found eventually that continuing to dance and continuing to be resilient and continuing to create, I finally found a community that like doesn't really ostracize me for my choreo, or doesn't ostracize me for, you know, being POC, you know. So just like keep looking for that community too.
Do it with more of an intent. Do it with more of a mission. Do it more with the thought of this show, it needs to serve a purpose for someone, not just myself. It can't just be ego. It can't just be I'm better than. It can't just be like I have the money. And it should be, who did I help? What organizations did I bring together? What people, what groups of people did I challenge? Did I, you know, shed light on? Like, it needs to be more active, because you can have a show and meet a requirement for an MFA, for your undergrad, for whatever, but that really just doesn't say anything about it. It literally says, I've made the bare minimum. And I read into that. I read into that. You literally did the bare minimum and you just threw shit on the wall. And I say it that way because it's like, I didn't feel anything. I went to your show and literally it was like a $20, $30 budget because you printed them out. But if that $20, $30 budget was all you had and you made this phenomenal piece, like just one piece and it was on the wall, people could tell. People are probably going to be able to tell. So it's not to say that, you know, it's money constraints. It's more like you didn't make an effort. Because to say I don't have money to throw a really good show, that's a lie. And to say that you don't have the ability to market or sell, it's like, we'll find someone who does and team up with them and try to find a way to really go about it.